We are live. Hello. Hello. Okay, I guess we're actually running. I'm Amanda Call, and this is my comic, Age of Night. I've been working on this page for a couple of streams now. I have also done a fair amount of work on it off stream. So last time we were working on doing the inking of the background elements with a pen and nib pen and ink. And I finished the background elements. I really only had this little section over here left at the end of the last stream, so I just went ahead and finished that up. Now we're moving on to inking with the brush, getting all of the figures and spot blacks done, and a few other little organic bits like these shrubs. So, I'll load my brush up. Make sure I've got some decent point. Hey, Hungry, thanks for joining me. And I'll start in. With very light, gentle strokes. Trying to get the shape and direction of all his hair without overdoing it so that his hair doesn't look too dark. Thel has like medium brown hair, so I can add a little bit of texture in it, but you don't want to add too much. One of the weird things of working in black and white is that you're also trying to convey like relatively how light and dark different colors of objects are. And so like a character with very fair hair, you wouldn't want to put a bunch of texture in because then it would end up looking darker. Because they got all these black lines in it. Hey, thanks for joining me, Barney. Appreciate it. I'm your favorite main-based comic book live stream draw on a Tuesday. Yeah, I'll take it. A beard texture. Again, I don't want to get too heavy because then it'll look like his beard is way darker than the rest of his hair. Definitely want it to look like beard. This is the greatest Maine-based comic book live stream draw on a Tuesday, and I dare say all of New England. Ooh, wow, that's saying a lot. Thanks, Hungry. I don't know as I've thoroughly researched that enough to feel comfortable accepting that claim. Get all of that, all those little tassels done. And his backpack. And now we can do the fun shrub texture for this shrub over here. Hey, Cthulhu Hand Luke. So it's actually not non-photo blue. It is. Let me dig it out to show you. Got one right over here. It's Prismacolor's Colorase blue. This is the layout blue. The number for the color is 20044. And it is this nice, bright, kind of dark blue, which is actually very easy to see. And it also erases really nice and clean. So it's really great to draw with. You can erase your underdrawing really easily as you're going along. Non-photo blue doesn't really work anymore because scanners and cameras have gotten too good, and they can actually see the non-photo blue now. And non-photo blue like totally wrecked my eyes for the few years I was using it in college, and I hated looking at it. Like, gave me terrible headaches. And so instead, now I use that layout blue. I've been using that for years because you can still take it into an image editing software like Photoshop and grab all of the blue color out and just leave the black and white after you get it scanned in. So it still serves the same purpose as the non-photo blue. It's a little bit more of a process because, again, it's like non-photo blue doesn't really work. You can't just have a camera not read it anymore, unfortunately. So it still works the same way, but it's a little bit different. It's a little easier to see, and it's a lot easier to work with. I always also found all the non-photo blue pencils to be really waxy, and a lot of times they actually didn't take ink very well. Yeah, definitely. Pretty much any art supply retailer that carries Prismacolor will at least be able to order the Colorase pencils, even if they don't have them like in stock in their store. I, of course, buy them by like the box. But you can just buy like one or two to try them out. And they come in a wide variety of colors. Because I use like I'll use like red and pink for my perspective lines just so that they stand out. And when I'm doing a perspective grid, this page doesn't have one on it, but on pages where I have a perspective grid, I use the red and pink. Just so that it doesn't blend in with whatever I'm drawing with the blue. And yes, I am always more than happy to explain. If you have any other questions about anything, just let me know. It might take me a moment to look up and see it in the chat, but I will answer it as best I can as soon as I see it. Kamaria being sassy. Sassy face. Oh, thanks for coming in and saying hi anyway. The stream will be up archived if you want to check it out later. If you can't make a stream or can't finish a stream, I keep them all on the channel, so you can always check them out at your convenience. But I appreciate you dropping by and saying hello. Yeah, I don't know what exactly the coal eraser are using for a binder, but it's not at all waxy. So it's very easy to ink over. All of Kamaria's big waves of dark hair all over the place. Need more ink. Hello. Hey, RCG. RCG. I can't speak. RCG or RCJ. That's where I got screwed up. RCJ Artist. Thanks for joining me. I apologize that I apparently can't read your name. That's entirely on me. It's entirely just me failing at speaking the only language I know how to speak. All right. There's all of the hair for that panel. Okay, so that's the first panel. First panel is now done. Hey, Greg, thanks for joining me. And hello, Shade. Real paper and real ink. I have been doing a lot of digital coloring lately for a big comic project, and I am always so relieved when I can put that away for a while and go back to working on actual paper. Yes, I usually do ink my backgrounds first. I wouldn't say that there's a particular reason for it. I think, well, probably because it's usually a little bit more tedious, so I get it out of the way first so that it's not like the last thing left just kind of staring at me. It's a psychological trick to make sure that I don't like completely blow off doing my backgrounds. Because I find the brush inking of the figures to be a lot easier and a lot more fun, and so I save it for last to ensure that I actually do my backgrounds. I have to trick myself into working. I don't think that's uncommon. Well, I do the backgrounds. So the question was, do I find doing the backgrounds first is a good warm up? And the problem is that the backgrounds are usually done in nib pen instead of in brush, and so like a little insofar as I'm just drawing and getting my arm moving and everything, but it's a very different process. Like it's a very different type of drawing, so. It's not exactly the same. Also, the one thing that doesn't really come across about my workflow in these streams is that I'm only ever working on one page over the course of multiple streams. What I usually am actually doing, as far as the bulk of the comic pages that I'm producing, is that I'm usually working on these in batches. Right, yeah, just getting my hand moving. But I'm usually working on these pages in batches, so I'll have like three comic pages in a sequence that I'm working on all together, and I'll like lay out and pencil all three of them, and then I'll go through and I'll letter all three of them, and then I'll go through and I'll do the backgrounds on all three of them. So very often, like the only thing I'm doing for an entire work session is just backgrounds, and then at the beginning of the next work session, I'll go and I'll do all the brush inking to finish them off. Which, yeah, that doesn't really come across in these streams, partially because I have to be very selective about which pages I even bring on a stream, because I don't want to bring on anything that's like excessively spoilery for a comic page that isn't going to post for weeks. Or that's easy for me to like, mask the word balloons on or something, if it is a little bit spoilery. Yeah, I used to work one panel at a time doing backgrounds and characters, but I found that I moved a lot faster and got a lot more of like a groove going when I started batching my pages like that. And really, any way that you work on pages that works for you is the way to do it. That line didn't quite meet the lines I had already made. Okay, we're going to fix that. So I'm using a Winsor & Newton Series 7, a size 4. So it's the Real Sable. Even though 4 is a relatively fat one, but they're really high quality brushes, so you can still pull a very tiny point with them. But then you can also get a nice fat line or fill in a large area real quickly with them too. And depending on how much work I'm doing, they'll last somewhere between like 8 and 18 months, depending on how much inking I'm doing with them. Because even if you clean your brush really thoroughly, India ink is just super hard on brushes, especially natural fiber ones. Yeah, so you can see I can get some pretty tiny little lines. You can't even see those on camera. They just look gray. There we go. Very tiny lines. Let's see. So the question is the brush my sole tool for the figures? Do you use a nib or a felt tip pen for larger foreground objects, or do you use the brush for them as well? I'll usually use the nib for even foreground objects. If I need a particularly bold line, I'll go in and use the brush. And it's my general like mode for it is that the brush is for like soft organic things, if that makes sense. So like I do a lot of like foliage and fabric and that sort of thing is always brush. But then like I did like Phil's swords I did with nib. I'll pick out little details like swords and belt buckles and things like that with the nib pen on the characters. Or if a character is way off in the distance and exceptionally tiny, then I'll use the nib pen just because it's a little bit easier to control that and not accidentally turn them into a blob. But for the most part, pretty much everything on the figures, except for a handful of little details, is all done in brush. And usually like packs and everything is going to be brush. So I whip my page around in all sorts of different directions. Give everybody seasick. Oh, leading the way. I want to do something with the side of his pack there. It just looks very blank. I think we're going to give it just a little bit of shading there. Some more of these very thin hatched lines. Okay, that just kind of gives it a bit more. Okay, so this is 11 by 17 paper. The live area that all of the panel borders and everything are in within is 10 by 15. 11 by 17 is thankfully a very standard, easy to find paper size. Finding a scanner that can accommodate it is becoming increasingly challenging, however. For a little while there, those like flatbed 11 by 17 scanners were just like a thing you could find, and they weren't cheap, but you could find them. And now you like can't even find them. My last one died a couple years ago now, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Because I just could not find another one. Hey, thanks, Calvin. And I ended up having to get one of those like monster 4-in-1. Like it's this massive printer, scanner, copier thing. And it's like, I just need it to scan. It takes up an entire shelf and I just need it to scan. It's the only thing with an 11 by 17 scan bed that I could find. All right, that's that panel. So now our top tier is done and we can move on to the next tier. And we've got some shrubs, which I want to get a texture across on them, a leafy texture, but not overwork them so that they look too dark. Don't want them to seem like they're strangely black shadowed shrubs right at the beginning of the day. That works. I think that shrub came out okay. Let's see, what are we at for time? We're only 30 minutes into it, so we'll see how far we get. We'll probably be, if we don't actually finish, we'll be very close, I do imagine. So I usually keep these streams to about 1 hour. So at the end of the hour, I should get up and stretch, get a drink of water. You should probably do the same. We all need to get up and move and stay hydrated. Those are important things that are very easy to forget to do. Shrub. All right. These figures are a little small, so we got to keep the lines very thin, very delicate. Careful not to be heavy-handed, which has been my challenge like my entire creative life, is to stop being so heavy-handed. All right. See, you can tell when I get quiet that I'm concentrating. That's how you can tell I've gotten super concentrated when I stop talking. It's like, don't mess up. All right, there's her sash. And now, whoops. That kind of jagged looking stroke means that my brush was getting too dry. So now it is time to load up. Okay. I'll load back up, hold the point back down on my scrap piece of paper over here, so it's not all fat with ink. All right, that's one figure down anyway. Hey, hi, Mike. Let me see if I have a bottle here that's not open that I can grab. I do. Oh, this bottle's in very rough shape. It's very smeared, but it is Winsor and Newton India ink, not the like water soluble India ink. This is the one with the spider on it, the permanent India. You can't see very well because this is a used bottle and it's in very messy condition, but it's the black Indian ink. So there's Winsor and Newton makes two different types of India inks. One of them has a spider on the bottle, and that's the permanent India, which is what I'm using. And then the other one has a dragon on the bottle, like a Chinese dragon. And that is like a wash. It's like a water-based India ink. And it's great for certain applications, but to get the nice, super dark, matte black like I have going on here, you want the spider. You can still use it in washes too, though, by the way. I do use it for ink wash on occasion. I don't know if the dragon works better for ink washes. I've never actually tried it for pretty much anything because I know it does not work as well for comic inking. Now the weird little lines that I already had marked out on Drake will hopefully start to coalesce into making some sort of sense as I get him filled in here. Go around all these little guidelines that I already put in for myself. There we go. Now he actually looks like a black cat. Yeah, sure thing, Mike. All right. Back to doing extremely thin, delicate lines on these slightly small figures. Ooh. Sometimes. I have seen it in Michael's before. I don't believe Hobby Lobby carries it, but I don't tend to shop there, so I don't know. At this point, most of my like staple items like that, I tend to get online because I just like order a whole bunch of them all the time. So I usually get mine from Dick Blick. I want to say I saw it in Michael's because Michael's just opened in my area recently. And I did kind of like a scouting run of like, hey, what is actually in here? Like, what of the stuff that I normally use can I get here in an emergency? Like where my online order doesn't come through in time or they're out of stock for months, which happens all the time with art supplies. Get the pack in there. Whoop, 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 whoop. Where are we going? Get back here. Maria's pack in there. And her bedroll. Go. Push that other leg back a little bit to make it clear what the movement she's doing in is here. Instead of just being like, what is happening with her leg? That looks pretty dry. I don't have a TikTok, Barney. Barney likes to tease me. I don't have a TikTok. Do you realize how frequently I totally forget that updating Instagram is a thing I should do? I'll go a week and be like, oh, that's right. I have an Instagram. I should probably update that. I should probably make a post there. I can't imagine trying to keep up with another platform. Got all I can do to keep up with the few that I do, because I'm not good at the internet. Yeah, I will try to remember to update my Instagram with some of this after the stream is over. We'll see if that actually happens, though. It might not. If I made enough money to hire someone else to do stuff for me, almost certainly one of the first things I would hire would be a social media person. Please just deal with this computer stuff for me. I cannot. I am bad at it and I need help. Another little shrub over here. There we go. Very cute. Hey, Keith. Yeah, I scan them on a large flatbed scanner, and then I bring them into Photoshop, and I use Photoshop to pull out all of the blue pencil drawings that you can see around the ink. And then, any other correction, fixing scanner spots or places that didn't come through well or whatever. A little bit of correction in Photoshop, and that's pretty much it. I'm just pulling out the blue and basic cleanup. And then I just upload it to the website. Well, I mean, obviously it's not quite as easy as I just upload it to the website, because I save it as a very large image, a very large scanned image first, and save that so that eventually when I compile my volumes of the book, that I have the high quality images already ready to go, and I can just start laying them out into a book. I don't have to rescan everything. And then I just save a smaller web-friendly version as well and upload that. Still giving Kamaria a hard time. Everybody's giving everybody a hard time. tassels. And a scarf there. Always have to remember all the various straps and layers and things to their gear. Yeah, so I have a good question, Joseph. He asks, have I ever thought of going totally digital with a Wacom tablet or similar? I have a Wacom tablet and I use it for some digital coloring if I have a project that calls for it. This is obviously a black and white comic, so I don't do anything coloring wise for it. And I'm just not crazy about working digitally. I really love working traditionally, and that's what I've spent my time and energy getting really good at is doing things traditionally. I did very early on try to learn to draw digitally, and like I could do it, but I just did not enjoy it. I did not get the same sense of satisfaction out of it as I do with an actual physical drawing. So that's what I've focused on. It's like, well, if this is what I'm going to be doing forever, then I better be enjoying it. So I'm going to do it the way I enjoy it. Hey, thanks, Keith. That's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I do one of these live streams. So if you subscribe and do the bell notification thingy, then you should be notified whenever I go live. But it is pretty much always Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Because that is currently what works in my life schedule. Yeah. That's just the thing. It's like I always have had a drawing tablet of some sort because digital art is, in demand a lot, and I do a lot of digital coloring of different projects, but I still always draw in ink traditionally. Oh my goodness, we're already at 8:52. Got later than I thought. So we won't quite finish this page tonight, but I have now finished 3 out of the 4 panels, so we're pretty close anyway. I'm going to start working on this last panel while I go over all of the end of stream stuff, which is, in case you missed it at the beginning, the alerts don't always come through. I know YouTube doesn't always, function like it's supposed to. Gotta love it. But in case you missed at the beginning, I'm Amanda Call. This is my comic, Age of Night. You can read the whole thing at ageofnight.com. The whole thing is up there, available for free. Updates every Wednesday. I'm here on YouTube every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern doing a live stream with, rare exception of sometimes stuff comes up. But for the most part, you will find me here Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. working on my comic or something else of mine. Sometimes we mix it up a little bit. I also do other pre-recorded and edited videos, sometimes process work of different art projects, and sometimes just talking about what it's like to be a working artist or kind of editorial things about art in general. I just uploaded one of those a couple days ago. So if any of that sounds good, you should subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Tell your friends. You can also find me on Twitter at Age of Night. That's spelled AGEOFNIGHT. The website is spelled the same. You can find me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art, which I will actually update on occasion. There's a Facebook page for Age of Night as well. And while you can read all of Age of Night for free, you can also buy copies of it. PDF copies are available at Skirmisher's website, skirmisher.com, as well as the One Bookshelf websites, Drive-Thru RPG, Drive-Thru Fiction, and Drive-Thru Comics. You can also always help to support me by supporting me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Age of Night. And that gets you free comics and like all of the comic updates a week ahead. So like Patreon supporters are going to get this comic this week, but it will not publish publicly until the following week. And that's always how that works. Whoop. That line did not meet up the way I really wanted it to. There we go. Am I forgetting anything? I'm probably forgetting something. I don't know. Finish Wynn's face up here. Oh. On the other side of her hair here. All right, I think MySpace, I actually have a Tumblr account. I think it's Age of Night. I haven't touched it in like many, many years. And I also had a MySpace page, but I haven't touched that in way longer. So I would not count either of those as anything. Good try though, Barney. Good try. And I definitely do not have a TikTok. Just because I can't keep up. I can't keep up, you guys. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming and hanging out and providing conversation and questions. I super appreciate it. And I will see you all next week. Bye.